The show never says it directly. No confession, no dramatic moment where Mary looks into the camera and admits it. But the clues? They're everywhere. The way she laughs a little too hard at his jokes. The way she goes quiet when someone else mentions his name. The way she defends him before anyone even finishes their sentence. This wasn't just admiration for a pastor. This wasn't just spiritual respect. Today, we're going through every single sign, in order, that Mary had fallen for Pastor Rob long before the show ever made it obvious. And by the end of this, you're going to wonder how you didn't see it sooner. Let's establish the ground rules first. We're not diagnosing anyone. We're not here to shame Mary or make Pastor Rob the villain of some love story. What we are doing is watching the footage, the actual footage, and asking a question the editors clearly want us to ask. Why does Mary act so differently around him? Because she does. And once you see it, you genuinely cannot unsee it. I'm going to walk you through the signs chronologically, roughly in the order they appear across the seasons, because the progression matters. This isn't a collection of random moments. It's a pattern, and patterns tell you everything. Let's start at the beginning. Sign number 1, the way she first talks about him. Here's the thing about how people talk about someone they admire versus someone they're drawn to. The difference is subtle, but it's real. When Mary first brings up Pastor Rob in conversation, pay attention to what she doesn't say. She doesn't describe him the way you'd describe a mentor. She doesn't say things like, "He's been such a guiding figure," or "He's helped our family so much." She says things that are personal, things that center him, his qualities, his presence, his personality, not just what he's done for her spiritually. That's the first tell. When you admire someone professionally or spiritually, you tend to credit the role. When you're drawn to them, you keep circling back to the person. Watch her next time she brings him up unprompted. It's not our pastor, it's Rob. It's almost always Rob. Sign number 2, the physical tell. Now this one is going to sound small, but body language doesn't lie, and this is one of the most consistent signs in the entire show. Every time Pastor Rob enters the room, or joins a conversation Mary is already part of, watch what her body does. She doesn't stiffen. She doesn't become more formal, which is what you'd expect if this were purely a church authority dynamic. Instead, she orients. She turns toward him. Her shoulders drop. She relaxes. Psychologists call this postural mirroring and approach behavior. In plain English, your body moves toward people it feels safe with, attracted to, or emotionally bonded with. It moves away from people it finds threatening or merely authoritative. Mary's body? It moves toward Rob, every single time. And the contrast is striking, because watch how she holds herself around other men on the show, including her own husband. Different posture, different energy, different everything. Sign number 3. The laughter tells the whole story. We've all done this. You know someone you like, and suddenly everything they say is just a little bit funnier than it actually is. Pastor Rob is not a comedian. He's not dropping one-liners. But you would think he was, based on how Mary responds to him. There's a specific moment, and you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about, where he says something genuinely pretty ordinary, and Mary's laugh is so immediate, so open, so bright, that the other people in the room actually glance at each other. Because they notice too. Laughter is one of the most unconscious social signals we have. You cannot fake that kind of laugh consistently. And Mary? She laughs like that with Rob in a way she simply does not laugh with anyone else in the show. That's not respect for a pastor. That's delight in a person. Sign number 4. How she handles criticism of him. This is the one that honestly should have made everyone stop and think. Because this is where it gets really hard to explain away. Whenever someone on the show says anything even mildly critical of Pastor Rob, not even insulting, just questioning, Mary does not respond the way you'd expect a church member to respond. She doesn't say, "Well, that's between him and God." She doesn't say, "I'll pray on it." She doesn't even say, "I understand your concerns." She defends him, immediately, emotionally, sometimes before the other person has even finished their sentence. Now here's why that matters. We instinctively defend people whose image is tied to our own emotional safety. When someone criticizes a person we love or are falling for, it feels like a threat to us. It activates something protective and almost irrational, and that's exactly what you're watching every time someone questions Rob around Mary. She doesn't protect the institution of the church, she protects him. Sign number 5. The way she dressed around him. Okay, this one's a little more subtle, but stick with me. There's research going back decades showing that people, often unconsciously, dress differently around people they're attracted to or trying to impress. More put together, more intentional, more careful. Across the show's timeline, there are episodes where Mary looks noticeably different in scenes where Rob is present versus scenes where he's not. Not dramatically different, not like she's going to prom, but intentional, like she thought about it. And look, maybe that's just a camera thing. Maybe that's just coincidence. But when you stack it on top of everything else we've already talked about, it's one more piece in a very consistent picture. Sign number 6. The conversations only they have. Here's where the evidence gets almost uncomfortable. There are conversations between Mary and Pastor Rob that feel categorically different from any other conversation she has on this show. Not just in tone, but in depth. She tells him things. She opens up to him in a way she visibly does not open up to others, including people you'd expect her to be closest to. And he listens in a way that clearly means something to her. This is one of the classic markers of what psychologists call emotional intimacy. And the tricky thing about emotional intimacy is that it can develop completely outside of romantic intent. You can fall for someone emotionally long before you consciously recognize it as anything other than, "We just really understand each other." That's exactly what seems to be happening here. Mary has let Rob into an emotional space that she guards closely everywhere else. And you can see, in the way she looks after those conversations, that they mean something to her that goes beyond pastoral care. Sign number 7. What she does when he's not there. We've talked a lot about how Mary acts around Rob, but there's another sign that people almost never talk about. Watch what happens in episodes where Rob is largely absent from her storyline. She mentions him anyway. He comes up in conversations where, honestly, there's no real reason to bring him up. She references what he said, what he thinks, what he'd probably say about a situation. That's not just respect for a pastor. You don't involuntarily reference your pastor in unrelated conversations. You reference the people who are taking up space in your head. And Rob, whether Mary fully knows it or not, is clearly taking up space in her head. Sign number 8. The moment the mask almost slipped. And then there's this one moment. You might have blinked and missed it. It's a scene. I won't spoil the exact episode if you're not caught up, where something changes in the dynamic between Mary and Rob. Something is said, or almost said, or not said, and for just a second the camera catches Mary's face before she's had time to compose it. And the expression is not the expression of someone dealing with a complicated church situation or a difficult family dynamic. It's something more personal than that. It's something that looks a lot like longing. It lasts maybe 2 seconds, and then she's back to composed, appropriate Mary. But those 2 seconds? That's the whole case right there. The show never says it directly, but it didn't have to. So let's recap what we actually watched. The way she talks about him, the way her body moves toward him, the laugh, the defense, the attention to her appearance, the emotional intimacy, the involuntary references when he's not there, and that moment, that face, when her guard came down for just 2 seconds. None of these is proof on its own, but all of them together? That's not admiration for a spiritual leader. That's a woman who caught feelings for someone she probably never intended to fall for. in a situation that made acting on it nearly impossible. And that tension? That's why this storyline hits so hard. Now, if you want to understand his side of this equation, because trust me, Pastor Rob's behaviour is just as telling, that breakdown is coming next. And some of what's on that footage is going to genuinely surprise you.